Jim Elliot was a martyr and missionary in the 1950s. Jim and 5 other men died trying to reach the Auca Indians of Ecuador who've never heard the gospel. His widow Elizabeth went on after his death to impact so many with her writings and her biography of Jim called Through Gates of Splendor and the Shadow of the Almighty. Later came a movie of his life called The End of the Spear. Even though Jim Elliot died at age 29, Jim wrote, and thank God that Jim wrote. His journal and his biography is worth reading. Welcome to the 260 Journey into Hebrews chapter 12. The chapter ends with the shortest verse of the chapter and probably the entire letter. It's about God's nature. It's Hebrews 12:29. For our God is a consuming fire. That's it, but that's enough. John Wesley, the English revivalist of the 18th century, said it like this: get on fire for God and men will come to see you burn. Wesley was saying that fire needs no advertisement. When you hear a fire truck, you're looking for the smoke. God desires to set his servants on fire. He wants to consume them. There are so many powerful things Jim Elliot wrote in his journal before he was martyred. He said things like this: Father, make me a crisis man. Bring those I contact to decision. Let me not be a milepost on a single road. Make me a fork that men must turn one way or the other on facing Christ in me. He also said he is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain with what he cannot lose. Let me read something from Jim's journal that has affected me at the beginning of my ministry over 30 years ago. In fact, I committed it to memory. He wrote this after the morning devotional reading of Hebrews. Here are words that both challenged and brought conviction to my soul. Let me give you a warning. Don't read the rest of this if you want to stay where you are spiritually. Here's what Jim said. He makes his ministers a flame of fire. Am I ignitable? O God, deliver me from the dread asbestos of other things. Saturate me with the oil of thy spirit that I may be a flame. But flame is transient, often short-lived. Canst thou bear this, my soul? Short life? In me dwells the spirit of the great short-lived, whose zeal for God's house consumed him. Make me thy fuel, flame of God. 2 huge questions for us today from Jim Elliot. Am I ignitable? And what other things have been asbestos to keep me from being ignitable? Those are penetrating questions. Since God is a consuming fire, I must be ignitable. That is why I must bring judgment to everything I do, see, watch, and have friendship with. And this is the one standard. Are those things asbestos? If I am not on fire for God, it's not God's inability to ignite me. The question is always haunting me, am I ignitable? Every time the fire of God fell in the Bible, it was looking for something to fall on. In the Old Testament, it was looking for an animal sacrifice. But in the New Testament, it's looking for people. Fire fell on people on the day of Pentecost. One man said, if you want the fire of God, you must become the fuel of God. One of my favorite devotional writers, Samuel Chadwick, said this about the fire of God. The soul's safety is in its heat. Truth without enthusiasm, morality without emotion, ritual without soul, make for a church without power, destitute for the fire of God. Nothing else counts. Possessing fire, nothing else matters. Am I ignitable? And what things in my life is asbestos to retard the fire of God? John Wesley said these words about the Methodist Church he founded in the midst of revival. He said, my fear is not that our great movement, known as the Methodists, will eventually cease to exist one day or die from the earth. My fear is that our people will become content to live without the fire of God, the power, the excitement, the supernatural element that makes us great. Content to live without the fire of God. May it never be for any of us. I want to say with Jim Elliot, to our God, the consuming fire, make me thy fuel, flame of God. Jim was right when he later wrote in his journal, forgive me for being so ordinary while claiming to know such an extraordinary God. God is too amazing to be ordinary. He is a consuming fire, and I need to be his fuel. Thanks for joining the 260 Journey.